Before I begin my story, please subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and give this video a like. It really helps me share more stories like this with you. My name is Claire, and this is the story of how the love I thought I had, lost forever, walked back into my life after almost 2 decades. I met Ethan when I was 16. He was the kind of boy who lit up every room he walked into, confident, funny, with a smile that made teachers forgive him for arriving late and girls line up just to talk to him. But he wasn't just charm. Beneath the laughter and the jokes, there was a softness, a depth that not everyone got to see. Somehow, I did. We met in high school drama club. I wasn't even supposed to be there. I had joined only because a teacher insisted I needed to come out of my shell. Ethan, of course, was the star. He had a natural stage presence, the kind that made people believe every word he spoke. At first I avoided him. He seemed untouchable, too bright for someone like me. But one afternoon, while we rehearsed a scene together, he leaned close and whispered, "You know, you're the only one who doesn't look at me like I'm performing." I laughed nervously, not knowing what to say. And then, he grinned, and something inside me shifted. We began spending time together outside rehearsals, studying, walking home, sitting in the park until the streetlights flickered on. Our friendship turned into something deeper, something neither of us dared to name but both of us felt. One night, he kissed me under the bleachers after a school play. My first kiss. My first love. And I thought it would last forever. But forever ended sooner than I imagined. After graduation, my family moved to another city because of my father's job. Ethan and I promised to write letters, to call, to visit. And for a while, we did. But distance is cruel, and life has a way of pulling people apart. His letters grew shorter, my calls became less frequent, and eventually, silence filled the spaces where we used to be. I went to college, met new people, tried to convince myself that what Ethan and I had was just a teenage fling, but deep down, I carried him with me. Every laugh, every heartbreak, every quiet moment of loneliness, always compared it to him. I dated others. I even got engaged once, but when I looked into their eyes, I never felt the same fire, the same safety, the same belonging I once felt with Ethan. Years passed. I built a career, moved into my own apartment, and settled into a life that was comfortable, if not extraordinary. Love became something I read about in novels, not something I expected for myself then. On a rainy Saturday afternoon, I walked into a bookstore downtown and there he was, Ethan, older, yes, his jaw a little sharper, hair shorter, eyes carrying shadows I didn't remember. But it was him, the boy who had once been my entire world. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then, slowly, he smiled, that same crooked smile that had once stolen my heart. "Claire," he said, his voice deeper but still familiar. "It's been a long time." We ended up in a nearby cafe, sitting across from each other with steaming mugs between us. At first, the conversation was awkward, cautious. We spoke about work. He was now a photographer, traveling often but based in the same city again. I told him about my job as an editor, my routines, the little world I had built for myself. But as the minutes passed, the years seemed to fall away. We laughed about old memories, about the drama teacher who always wore mismatched socks, about our clumsy first kiss, about the night we snuck into the school auditorium just to play piano at midnight. Then, his expression grew serious. "I tried not to think about you," he admitted, "but I never really succeeded." My breath caught, because the truth was I had never stopped thinking about him either. But life is rarely simple. As our meetings became more frequent, coffee dates, long walks, stolen afternoons, I discovered Ethan carried his own scars. He had been married once, a short-lived marriage that ended in betrayal. He carried guilt for leaving, for not being enough. And I carried fear. Fear of being hurt again, fear of opening myself up only to lose him a second time. One evening, as we sat by the river watching the city lights shimmer on the water, he took my hand and whispered, "I don't want to waste more time. Claire, I lost you once. I don't want to lose you again." Tears filled my eyes. "But what if it doesn't work? What if we're just chasing a memory?" He squeezed my hand gently. "Then at least we'll know. But if we walk away now, we'll never forgive ourselves." And so, I let myself fall. It wasn't like when we were teenagers, reckless and dizzy with hormones and dreams. This time, it was quieter, deeper. A love built not on illusions, but on scars, on resilience, on the knowledge of how fragile life is. We weren't perfect. We argued, sometimes fiercely. We struggled with trust, with balancing our past with our present. But every fight ended, with us holding each other, with the certainty that no storm could undo what we had rebuilt. A year into our rekindled relationship, I was diagnosed with a heart condition. Suddenly, the world tilted again. Doctor visits, medications, the fear that the future I had just begun to dream of might be taken away. But Ethan never left. He sat beside me in waiting rooms, cooked for me when I was too weak, held me on nights when I broke down in fear. He became my rock, my shelter, my proof that love isn't just about joy, it's about standing together in the darkest nights. It's been 5 years since that rainy bookstore afternoon. Ethan and I now live together, in a little apartment filled with books and photographs, laughter and arguments, joy and tears. My health is stable, my heart stronger than I ever thought it could be, not just because of medicine, but because of love. Sometimes, I look at him across the table, camera in his hands, eyes crinkling with that same crooked smile, and I wonder, what if I had never walked into that bookstore? What if fate hadn't given us a second chance? But it did, and now I know some loves never die. They wait, silently, patiently, for the moment when life finally allows them to return. If you enjoyed this story, please don't forget to subscribe, activate the notification bell, and give this video a like. Your support helps me share more stories like this one. Thank you for listening.